And I told you last week that empowering simply means that it's the act of enabling others to make decisions and take action. Enabling others to make decisions and take actions. Welcome again to the Oscar Amisi Leadership Podcast. My name is Oscar Amisi and I'm so passionate about leadership. I equip people with high capacity tools to drive societal transformation. I believe that everything rises or falls as a result of leadership. And if we can be able to sort out the leadership question, we'll be able to see change and transformation in so many things around us, either in the corporate space, in the religious space, in business, and the politics of our nations. If we can fix the leadership question, then we'll see a lot of improvement in what happens and goes around us. We've been talking about empowerment, and I said in the last podcast that empowering is the health of any effective leader. In other words, you can't count yourself as a healthy leader if there are no people that you're empowering around you. And I think I posed a question to us in the last episode and asked, are there people that you know that you're consciously and intentionally empowering? You that has an opportunity to be in a space of management, either mid-level or senior level, even the C-suite level, are there people, are you empowering the people that are around you? Or are they just there to churn out results? Are you empowering them? You can't be an effective leader unless you intentionally empower. I want to go back. And I think I've done that in the last two podcasts. Still go back to the definition, my simple definition of an empowering leader, because it's so critical for us. If you're going to see results, if you're going to see the vision that we have as leaders perpetuated, even way after us, it's important for us to get to understand the definition of empowerment. And I told you last week that empowering simply means that it's the act of enabling others to make decisions and take action. Enabling others to make decisions and take actions. In other words, if every decision has to come back on your desk, doesn't matter how little, how small that decision is, then you're not empowering the people that are around you. I mean, at your level, either in senior level, because you're raising leaders, you should be able to know these are the kind of decisions that I get to make, and these are the kind of decisions that I delegate to those that I'm developing, those that are working around me. But if you've got to make every decision, whether you're on leave, you've taken a holiday, you're out of your office, and every small decision has to come back on your desk, then I need you to know you're not empowering anyone. You've got to start enabling others to make decisions and to take action. That's what empowering leaders do. You see, unfortunately, sometimes in our quest to feel needed, sometimes we make sure that we make all the decisions, even the smallest of the decisions, because we think that makes us needed. When you're getting all these calls asking you questions, makes you needed. Yes, you will feel needed, but I'll tell you, you will not be doing that organization justice. If you're going to do that organization justice, you've got to empower people around you. Don't just empower them by giving them tasks, delegate authority to them too. I told you in the last episode, there's a difference between a leader who's raising leaders and a leader who's raising followers. A leader who raises followers does not delegate authority. They make all the decisions. They keep all the authority to themselves. But a leader who's raising other leaders has learned to delegate authority. Has learned to challenge the people they're developing. That listen, when it comes to questions or decisions of this level, don't bring that to me. Make those decisions. You know the values of the organization. You know the vision of our organization. You know where we are going. Make those decisions, and I'm going to back you. I'm going to support you. That's an empowering leader. I told you that you train, you develop, and you don't just train and develop as an empowering leader. You do something that sometimes is very difficult for us leaders. You start believing in the people that you're developing. Believing in the people that you're developing means you start to create a trust environment that people can work, make decisions. Where they go wrong, let's come back, pick the lessons from the mistakes that we've done. We interrogate the lessons and we learn from those lessons. We told you there are things that you need as an empowering leader. We talked to you about the 3 principles that are must-have for an empowering leader. You want to learn more about them, I need you to go back to the last episode. Go listen to it, and you'll get to hear the 3 Ds of an empowering leader. Last week, we started talking about the critical steps that you and I need to take if we are to effectively empower. 2 critical steps. I told you these are 2 critical steps of empowerment. And I told you we'll do 2. We did 1 last week, and that was time. We said time is of essence. You can't think you're empowering others if you're not spending time with them. And we said last week, this is not just a passive time with them that just gives them presence and proximity. It's got to be an active time that gives them presence and proximity. Active in the sense that they get involved in the day-to-day as they spend time with you. And we shared with you 3 very important things that we said. If these things are happening, then you know your time is being spent wisely as you develop the people around you. We told you 1, when people are spending time with you, they've got to be able to interrogate your blind spot. They've got to be able to learn from your hits and your misses, your weaknesses and your success. Many times as leaders, we project perfection. You bring people on board, it could be younger leaders, and the way you carry yourself, the way you talk, it's like you've never made a mistake. You've never made some decisions that either costed you, costed the vision. It's just perfection. I came to remind us that as any leader, doesn't matter how successful they are, they know they're not perfect. They know they're not perfect. They've made some mistakes in the past, and they've also made some great decisions in the past. So when you're spending time with those that you're developing, allow them to interrogate your blind spot, be vulnerable to them so they can learn, listen, where you are at, you didn't just get there. You've been on a journey, and that journey is made up of good decisions, sometimes bad decisions, success and failures, challenges, sometimes under pressure, that have made you and gotten you to where you are as a leader. Number 2 thing that we told you must happen when you're empowering people and spending time with them is that they must be able to strategize for vision. You don't just want passive people around you. You don't just want yes men and women. You want people who can push back a little bit, not as far as the vision is concerned, but many a times I say as far as the delivery of the vision is concerned. Why? Because in your empowering, in your effort to empower them, you've created an environment that affords them creative expression. They can be innovative, they can be creative and tell you, listen, we like the vision is great, but can we think about other ways of delivering that vision? All right? Because God never gave us, any one of us, the monopoly of knowledge. So that's why people around you want them to have a sense of belonging, own that vision, allow them to strategize for vision. And then number 3, we said, you've got to pass and model values to them. You see, when people you're developing spend time with you, they see how you operate under pressure. They see how you handle success, how you handle other people, either people at your level, people lower, who are lower than you are, and people who are senior. They pick lessons. And they pick lessons because you're not just teaching values, but you're modeling values. And that's something so key for the people you're developing to see. There are more lessons that are caught than taught in the journey of developing other leaders. There are more lessons that are caught than taught. Today, I want us to look at the second thing on this score of critical steps in empowering. The first one, like we've just said, was time. The second one is training. Training is so key. So you spend time with them, but you also intentionally train. You develop leaders by not just spending time with them, but by taking them through an intentional training process that is step by step. I'm going to say that again. Great leaders don't just develop leaders by spending time with them, but they also intentionally take them through a training process that is step by step. And that's what I want us to look at. This training process, for it to be effective, must take into account three very critical and important elements. Must take into account these very three critical and important elements. In fact, it's not just three. I think I'll add you two more that should back up that process. Number one, if you're going to effectively train, there has to be a component of education. All these critical steps start with the letter E to make it easier for you to remember. The first one, there has to be some education. And in education, you're asking yourself this question, and you keep on asking this question as you develop these leaders. What information do the people I'm developing need in order to effectively carry out the vision of my organization? What information do the people I'm developing need in order for them to effectively carry out my vision and that of the organization? Is there some information that they need? What is this information? Who can give them this information? Or where can they get this information? And as a leader, it's your responsibility to go out of your way for the sake of the team and the vision to find out, how do I build this capacity? How do I bring the people on board who can pass this information and sharpen their skills? Or where can I expose them and take them for them to have their skills sharpened and exposed to information that will help in the effectiveness of our vision as an organization? So what information? That's education. There has to be some education. Don't just have people around you who, by the time they leave your organization, they leave the same way they came. If they came in with a certain level of knowledge, certain level of education in what they do, it is your responsibility, for the sake of that vision, to find out, how do we upscale you? How do we add to your knowledge? How do we add to your skill? So what education will you need? Who can offer that education? And where can we find that education? And you do everything within your power to make sure that they have access to it. Number two, it's a question of equipping. It's a question of equipping. What tools or skills do they need to be effective leaders who can influence and lead and be able to maximize on the vision of the organization? The second one is a question of equipping. So this is the question. What tools or skills do they need? What tools or skills do the people I'm developing need to effectively lead, influence, and drive the vision of the organization? What skills? What tools? What can I make available? How do I equip them? So the first one is information. The second one is tools and skills. How do I expose them to these tools and skills? How do I make it easier for them to be able to influence and lead? That's the second question. The first question is a question of education. The second question is a question of equipping. The third question is experience. You've given them information. You've given them the equipment, the equipping that they need, but then they need to go into the arena to play. Experience. And this is the question. What platform do I need to create for them so they can gain as much experience as possible as they execute what they have learned? What platform do I need to create? Remember, it's not them creating the platform. You, the leader, got to create that platform. What platform do I need to create for them so they can gain as much experience as possible as they execute what they have learned? So there's education, there's equipping, and there's experience. I normally say, if you're to work on a percentage level, the education should be 10%. The equipping should be 20%. The experience should be 70%. But you see, many of us sometimes work it the other way around. The experience is 10%, the equipping is 20%, the education is 70%. You do that, you won't raise effective leaders. At that level, the education 10%, equipping 20%, experience for them to exercise and practice that which you've taught them should be 70%. In other words, we keep on creating platforms for them in the organization, outside the organization, for them to be able to thrive and execute what they've been taught. That should be the components of any training. If any training doesn't have these three components of education, equipping, and experience, then that's not effective training. It will just be an academic exercise. And you don't want that to boil down to an academic exercise. That as a developing leader, as a leader who's empowering other people, your training should have these three key components. Education, 10%. Equipping, 20%. Experience, 30%. It should take up most of their time. It is experience. Because people learn better when they do. People learn better when they're doing out there. And then I'll add you two more, and then we'll be done on this score. These two now should be like the icing on the cake to be able to check out, has my training been effective? Evaluation. Once they've gone through those three key components, then there has to be some evaluation. How often will I sit down with the people I'm developing in order to evaluate their progress and their growth? There has to be some evaluation. You can't be an empowering leader who doesn't spend time to evaluate. Where are they at? Are they at the same level when they came in? Are they developing? Are they progressing? That's the evaluation. Any empowering leader must evaluate the progress of the people that they're developing. And then edification. Once you've evaluated where they are at and things are working, it is important for you to take time and to recognize that progress and the hard work of the people that you're developing. That's edification. It's simply patting them on the back, saying, it is good, you're doing well, you've progressed. What is celebrated is repeated. You progress, you're doing well, I'm seeing improvement, great improvement in what you're doing. I need you to work on this, but I'm seeing great improvement. That's the process of edification. That's the question of edification. You're patting them on the back. You don't wait to do that at the end of the year. Do it as often as you can. Every time there's an opportunity for you to celebrate the people that you're empowering when they get it well. Don't just be known as a leader who points out the wrongs. Also be known as a leader who celebrates the good that has been done. That's an empowering leader. We've said today that, listen, for you to be able to empower properly, training has to take place. And the three components that are key for that training to be successful, that is education, that is equipping, and that is experience. And then with those three, you've got to bring in evaluation, sit with people to track their progress, edification, celebrate them where they are doing well. You do that, you'll be empowering your people well. I want to challenge you as we finish our podcast today. Think of a few people, put their names down that you're empowering. Intentionally go out and empower them as leaders. Next week when we meet, we'll be taking this conversation higher. But then thank you so much for joining us, for listening in and watching. If this is blessing you, if this is benefiting you, please share it. And don't just share, we want you to subscribe to our podcast channels and to our YouTube channel. And if you have any question, write it in the chat. We'll be able to respond to that question next time. And as usual, listen, if you want to learn the things that I'm teaching in greater detail, go to Amazon. Get my new book, Seed It Out, How Great Leaders Become Great Leader Makers. Let's sharpen your leadership journey. Let's change the leadership narrative in our generation today. See you next time when you join us again on the Oscar Amisi's Leadership Podcast. Bye.